You know, the golfing class is huge between these two teams. But still, PSG go there, they get it done, and they continue to impress.
Yeah, I mean, this is unsurprising because, as you mentioned, the golfing class, and I mean, it was an absolute pasting. Before the first goal went in, we were watching some highlights coming in, and there was 2 or 3 other chances. I mean, they just were not at the races, and that's a reality check. If indeed anybody inside that ground really needed one, if they thought they were going to be competitive against PSG, then people were just barking up the wrong tree.
The part of the reason that they're not competitive against PSG is because you look at that front three, and you can only imagine that they're going to get better as they continue to play together and spend more time around each other, and the movement with and without the ball, as Neymar has freedom to move everywhere around the field. Cavani stays in a more central position, and Mbappe uses his athleticism. This team, if they get on a run and you have that front three playing well, they're a threat, a real threat.
Whether it's Celtic or anybody else, whoever's playing against PSG, before the game starts off, are going to have some hope, and by the end of it, it'll all have disappeared.
Oh. Well, Metz gave PSG a game on Friday.
For a little bit.
For a little bit, in the bottom of the French league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think maybe Celtic fans and Brendan Rodgers, who prides himself on thinking he's amongst the elite coaches in European football, maybe could have expected a little bit more. So it's certainly back to the drawing board for that gentleman.
Claimed their first victims in this season's Champions League, and it's Celtic here at Celtic Park. It was 5-0 to the French Giants. PSG had a number of positives to take from this game. The performance of Adrien Rabiot in midfield, notably assisting Neymar's opener, but also Alphonse Areola in goal as well. PSG keeping a clean sheet, but the Frenchman having to make a number of saves, particularly a good one from a Lee Griffiths free kick in the first half. It's not perfect for PSG as far as the rest of this season's Champions League goes, because there will be many better teams that they face than this limited Celtic side. However, PSG coped with the atmosphere well here at Celtic Park, and they put in a very, very good performance going forward, and it's something to build on for them, especially with Bayern Munich coming up next in Paris.
On to Group B, and Celtic at home to Paris Saint-Germain, and fearing the worst, they got it. Beaten 5-0.
Yeah, but it's important to get a good start, not to concede, maybe to go 20-25 minutes at 0-0. And, you know, going forward, I thought they should have had a free kick here, but you can see how open they are here. We spoke about the young fullback playing against Neymar. 1-against-1 with his pace, cuts inside him. It's a great finish. You know, we wondered whether he would be protected by maybe Scott Brown or the central midfield players coming across. And both fullbacks were exposed all evening.
Was it too adventurous a sign, do you think?
Well, you can see them going forward on the break, and I think it should have been a free kick. However, and there's been Cham trying to come across to help the young fullback, but when you're one of 2 central midfield players, you can't be expected to come all the way across. That's where the wide players have to do better.
Anthony Ralston at right back, 18-year-old, up against Neymar. A difficult night for him. And the front three all scoring for PSG. That was Kylian Mbappe, 7th goal as a teenager in the Champions League, equaling Patrick Kluivert's record.
Not a bad record, that, is it?
It's all right, isn't it? Especially when you got another year left of being a teenager.
This is a penalty here. I think it's a bit harsh. However, he did pull him out. I don't know why he had as you can see, he grabs hold of his arm and he actually does put him down. I mean, the ball's nowhere near, but
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a penalty.
Now, unfortunately, after this kick, which made it 3-0, a Celtic fan did come onto the pitch and try and kick Kylian Mbappe, and I'm sure we will hear more of that. So it's 3-0 at half-time. 4-0 was very unfortunate.
So how many players from Paris Saint-Germain on the box?
But that's Scott Brown playing left back or trying to get an attack that left back, and you know, it's such an attacking Celtic team, which they do every week in Scotland because it's easy for them. Stepping up in class, maybe he should have gone a little bit more defensive. But it's your first home game. You want to win it, so you play your strongest team.
But an adventurous team that's come unstuck because it finished up 5-0.
This is a lovely goal.
That's a super header. Improvisation in there.
Could have gone with his feet, chooses his head, puts it back the other way.
And I think now, even Cavani, I'm the top man now. Slatan's gone, and I'm playing him up a third position, and you know, he puffs his chest out and scores goals. And that's what you want. But those three, there's going to be scoring loads of goals this season.
2 for Edinson Cavani tonight, but for Brendan Rodgers, another chastening defeat on the opening day of the Champions League.
We talked about the size of this task ahead of the match. Assess your...
How will Cavani, Mbappe and Neymar work together? Cavani being clearly the sort of linchpin, the central focus. This is his touch map tonight. What do we read into that, Paolo?
Reading, yes, it's the one. It's more close to the goal all the time in the central corridor, because the both wingers coming inside with lots of mobility, and allows him, to be always close to the goal.
He's playing within the lines of the penalty area.
In the central corridor, being the reference, and to be always ready, to score.
Okay, so then the question is, where's Neymar? He's nominally starting out on this left-hand side,
but with lots of mobility, like we predict, looking to go between the lines, and it's what we looking in this display. It's lots of movements. He started always from his corridor, but with the diagonals, waiting between the lines where we can receive from the middles and go to combine with the attack.
Yeah, with Cavani. So he doesn't necessarily swap with Mbappe, but he's certainly able to use this space. When you look at Mbappe, very similar, sort of in reverse.
In the other side.
Yes.
So they started with the right side much more, and then coming in, to combine with Cavani and with Neymar.
It works.
It works a lot.
It's potent.
Unfortunately for Celtic, it works a lot.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like money very well spent at the moment.
It's a pleasure to be joined by Nasser Al-Khelaifi.
Clearly, the new signings are making a huge impact in their game at Celtic Park. Now, on to Bayern Munich at home tonight against Anderlecht, the Belgian champions. A little bit more difficult than it might have been. They won 2-0, but Anderlecht reduced to 10 men pretty early on, actually after 11 minutes for that little tug. That was Sven Kums. That's what I love, Ribery. I'm on the ref.
I think he thought he'd been sent off as well.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's the best number 9.
Lewandowski
in the European Champions League. When I say number 9, maybe Messi will score more, maybe Ronaldo scores more, but as a number 9 centre forward,
he's an old-fashioned one, isn't he?
Yeah, he gets in the box. And here you can see opportunities from that Anderlecht had after 10 men when it was still 1-0. So, yes, they went on to win 2-0 comfortably, but they made it difficult for themselves.
That's the performance event was the top.
What was going on in Lisbon tonight? Benfica. How can they lose at home? That just doesn't happen. Not against CSKA Moscow, anyway.
No, losing important players during the last seasons. They started to have also some problems, especially in the defensive line. They're struggling a little bit, especially in the defensive line. They have some problems during this season. Not so young players as in the centre backs. And it started like this. The champions group phase. It's not a good sign.
Seferovic with a goal for Benfica. That's his 8th in 9 games for club and country.
That's a harsh penalty.
That's a harsh penalty, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a good penalty.
Yeah. It's you don't stop that.
No, unfortunately not. And to be fair,
Coutinho taking that.
Yeah, the keeper made some good saves as well for Benfica this season. Some real good saves.
You see, Russian teams, this is a good save by the goalkeeper, and he had a lot to do in this game. Russian teams always do well early on because they start before everybody else. Then when they have their break and they come back, if they make it through to the last 16, that's when they struggle because they just come back. So while it's a good performance and a good result, the Russian teams do well in the early stages.
So very disappointing for Benfica, the double winners from Portugal last year. Manchester United on top of the table, level with CSKA Moscow, and those two meet in the next round of games, match day 2. United going to Moscow and Basel at home to Benfica.
Extra time. Thank you very much for your questions. Let's get straight to it, shall we? Who has a better chance of winning the Champions League, PSG or Barca?
Well, if you'd asked us this question yesterday...
Should we say what Stevie said when describing Messi and we had to stop down? He said there aren't enough expletives.
Well, that's also true. Listen, having watched this performance against Juventus, then they're a lot closer to winning it than...
You said they were going to win it yesterday, didn't you?
Well, no, I didn't. You said, I said.
Okay. Who said?
Is that right? You said, I said.
Barca or PSG?
Well, you said, I said.
Barcelona.
Barcelona. Has Luis Suarez lost a step, or has he just not got his shooting boots on yet? Bit harsh.
Well, he hasn't lost a step.
Just one.
I mean,
He's come back from injury.
and he did score over the weekend as well.
Yeah.
So
Oh, this could be for Craig. One-sided, high-scoring matches galore today. Does UEFA need to rethink allowing small teams into the group stages?
oh boy, here we go. And go.
Gab Marcotti, our colleague, must have written a column on FC.com about this, surely.
Yeah, he's very pro keeping it as is, doesn't he?
Yeah, he was an anorak.
Huh?
Train spotter.
Okay.
Any more expletive superlatives?
Expletives.
Every single ESPN FC on-air talent is a Twitter blue check verified, except one. So are you really Steve Nicol or an imposter? When you get a little blue tick, Stevie.
I can't be bothered. What's the difference?
Well, because then people know that it's really Steve Nicol that they're
Who cares?
insulting.
I don't, why would I be bothered about that?
I mean, the good thing is,
When you tweet Adele, she might reply
Yes.
if you've got a blue tick.
Oh,
If-
no, wait a minute. Now you're talking.
If she knew, does she know that you're tweeting her?
I can't be bothered. And it makes no difference to me, so...
I mean, the good thing is when such sensible tweets come out
Yes.
from you, that it
Aye.
can only be you.
I'm actually doing myself a favour. Because for every sensible, nice person that tweets you, you get 3 or 4 complete balloon heads that
Well, you've
want to
upset
rip you
Huddersfield
apart.
Town quite badly, didn't you, on Twitter?
Oh, that's fine. Let it go sometime.
Is it?
Hey, no bother.
All right.
You want me to send you an email?
I'm sending
Send me an email.
I'll send you an email. Yes.
Okay, I think, is that it?
No, sod it.
That's it. That's it.
Get him a blue tick.
I'm not in charge of the blue tick. Come on.
Somebody must be.
I don't
Who's
know
in
how
charge of the blue tick?
Who gets the blue ticks out?
What are you asking me for? I don't.
Mark Donaldson, he'll do it.
Mark will do it.
Ah, the big one.
He will.
He'll know when
He'll
the blue ticks.
100% do it.
Okay. It was going to get done. A loan deal, of course, helps them with the whole financial fair play.
It helps them to some degree. Obviously, they're paying a premium on the price because there's a loan fee incorporated in it as well. And right now, everybody was skeptical about whether the Neymar deal at all was going to lead them to breach. Now, throw this in and consider that a year from now, they'll have the weight of Neymar and Mbappe on their books. So, look, in the end, this is all going to be determined by how much revenue they raise between now and June 30th, 2018, in commercial contracts, in sponsorships, in players that they might sell, although at this stage looks like January, and in the prize money that they get. That's all that matters. Everybody else talking they should be banned, they shouldn't be banned, they should be punished. It's all irrelevant. We don't know right now that there's even reason to do it.
I told you that. You were warned before we started this.
What's that?
Don't go to McCarthy about financial fair play.
People
Right.
are interested, though, aren't they?
Who?
Hey? John down the road, he's interested.
Oh, wow.
Barry.
Financial fair play, my God.
Right, Sid, this was supposed to be Madrid still, wasn't it? We've seen the pictures of Mbappe with the Real Madrid players on his bedroom wall, had a great relationship with Zidane, trained with them at Valdebebas. Why didn't they get this done?
Essentially, and this ties in a little bit with what Gab's saying, because of the price. Essentially, because ultimately the deal was too big for even Real Madrid. And we've always talked about this before, that there's this assumption that Madrid can get every player they want. That's not always true. There is a kind of a structural limitation to them, which we saw actually last year with Paul Pogba. And ultimately, that's where this ended up, in a position in which Madrid weren't prepared to push it right through. They were trying to get this done. They were trying to give themselves the opportunity. Among the conversations that were had with Mbappe's camp, including promises about opening up a space for him in the side, which of course is something that he doubted all the way through, not least with Bale, Benzema and Ronaldo there, and also with Asensio coming through and Isco playing the back end of last season. And ultimately, I think too few of the ingredients were in place to make this possible for Real Madrid.
Man United have won a watch, haven't they?
Man United?
Yeah, he said mention Pogba. What they paid for him now last year, because it has gone absolutely bonkers in 12 months. Absolutely bonkers. And as you say, there's even a limit and a ceiling for the likes of Real Madrid. But what we do know, just forgetting how the clubs are going to deal with the financial fair play and all that, this is the most, out with the big two we always talk about, this is the most talented player potentially on the planet. I mean, he is fantastic, Mbappe.
It feels like a while since we've had someone so young, so exciting coming through.
And that we know will deliver.
Yeah.
Because we've had players that you think, oh, this could be the guy, and somehow falls short.
Oh, Jack Wilshere, you were very excited about Ali.
Oh, well, yes, clearly. That was the name I was thinking of. I would just suggest that for Real Madrid, they were not desperate to make this deal because of the team that you have in place and because of all the success that you've had and because of the issues that Zidane already has in his hands with making sure that the pieces fit. If they had been able to do the deal, they would have, but I don't think they were desperate to push it as far as perhaps PSG would have. And, of course, PSG ends up with Mbappe. And what a tremendous player he is. And he makes PSG now, as you look at that front line, one of the favorites in Champions League.
There's only one team desperate in Spain at the moment.
Yeah.
Only one team, it's Barcelona. PSG were desperate because although they didn't win League One last year, domestically it's important, but it doesn't hold sway compared to getting the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that's the Champions League. And as Ali said, whilst they're not favourites, it will give them a great chance.
UEFA coming out today and saying that they're investigating PSG with regards to financial fair play. Why are they coming out and making this public? Surely they should just be investigating any club anyway.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering the same thing when the statement came out. Basically, what's happening is this: UEFA say that they're in continuous communication with every club in European competition, and blah blah blah. But what they've done with PSG is because remember they've had several meetings with them before the end of the transfer window. Is they've basically said, look, you guys, we're concerned about you, and we want to have a look and see how you guys plan on meeting your financial fair play requirements. And we want you guys to submit documents in real time, sort of as and when you go and you sign deals and you make transactions, rather than all in one go at the end of the year, the way other clubs would. And I think that's what they mean by investigation. It's still going to be financial fair play following the normal course, but they are keeping a very, very close eye on Paris Saint-Germain.
If you're a PSG supporter, Gab, should you be concerned that maybe you could be kicked out of the Champions League, for example?
Surely that's the risk. I mean, that is sort of the maximum punishment under financial fair play.
This year, Gab, could they, for example, be kicked out this year?
No, they can't be kicked out for the 27-18 season. And under a normal course of financial fair play, they couldn't be kicked out for 2018-19 either. However, it appears now that because of the regimen that they're under, where they have to basically submit their documentation and their accounts of their transactions continuously, in theory anyway, if their breaches were severe enough, they could theoretically be banned or punished next season, in the 2018-19 season. And certainly that's a new development. It would take something extreme for that to happen. Most likely this will be dealt with 2019-20.
Year sold all their players. Now, it must take away an element of excitement when it comes to the league in the fact that PSG are going to win.
Well, not necessarily, because Monaco has played 4 games. They kept very good players like Neymar, for example, or Glick at the back, and they kept the shape of last year, and the way they want to play is still very effective. So we might have the battle between Monaco and Paris Saint-Germain, but it's almost the case, in Spain with Real Madrid and Barcelona. It's not even the case in Italy, where Juventus is dominating for the past 5 years, and the same for Germany, where Bayern Munich is fighting on his own, in fact.